Good evening, darlings. We're going to do another cooking episode tonight. So tonight I'm doing sort of a mixed cuisine. It's based off of a couple of different French dishes that I sort of enjoy. And so we're going to start tonight. We're going to be making our own fresh bread, sort of an herb flatbread to go with it. And it's going to be sort of a seafood and vegetable soup. So we're going to go ahead now and start with making our bread. So we're going to get our yeast. 1 packet is fine. I like to put it directly into the measuring cup for the 1 cup of warm water that you're going to need. I just try to get the tap as hot as it will go. You don't want it to be too hot or you're actually going to end up killing your yeast. So let's go ahead, and there's about a cup. And you're going to want to stir it until things sort of dissolve. And once that's done, you're going to have to wait for 10 minutes for the yeast to sort of start activating. Because of course yeast are living things, so they're going to want to start breaking out and getting ready to eat all the sugars that are going to be in your flour, so they can start producing all the deliciousness. So when you're done, you should have about that sort of milky color. And we're going to put a timer on for 10 minutes, wait for that, and it should sort of be a little bubbly at the top or foamy. Alright, darling, so while we have the yeast sort of activating, we have about 3 more minutes left. I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm starting to mince the garlic so that we can get that in. You can do just some onions. You don't have to mince the onion. You can go ahead and just slice it if you like. But I just thought to save on time because, of course, it takes a lot of time to just mince the garlic. If you have a garlic press, then you don't have anything to worry about. You just put it through and you'll be done instantly. Or you can buy the garlic paste. That's another great option if you have it available for you. I recommend that instead. So we're just going ahead and mincing this now. And then we're going to go ahead and get our bread started by actually putting together all the flour ingredients. So I've got a nice little mince here on the garlic. So we're going to go ahead now and start working on the bread base. So of course you want to add 2 to 3 cups of flour. I have about 2 here. I'll have to open up another one. So just go ahead and put that into your bowl. Just going to grab some more flour. Okay, we're going to go ahead now and add our flour. You want to add about 2 to 3 cups of flour into your bowl. You can use all-purpose flour. You don't have to worry about using the bread flour. You do get a little bit nicer texture with the bread flours, but it is more expensive, and it may not be available where you are. So, you know, do what's best for you. So I've put about 2 1/2, well, it's probably about 2 3/4 cups of flour now into my bowl. Yeah, and then I also want to add salt. It's very important that you add your salt, of course, for the flavor. I'd say about 1 teaspoon to 1.5 teaspoons is good, or just if you like it more salty, then just go for that, darlings. And then I want to make it a little bit more of a sort of savory bread, so I'm going to go ahead and add some herbs. So I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of chili powder. I'm going to do 1 to 2 tablespoons each of parsley. I'm going to do the same for the oregano, and I'm going to do the same for the basil. Okay, and I might just do just a little dash of paprika. You know, I really like paprika. We're going to have a lot of it actually in our dish. This I'm only going to do about 1/2 tablespoon. Okay, so we're going to use a fork now to sort of whisk the ingredients together. It's a little easier than a spatula once you start adding your liquids in. And our 10 minutes are up now on our yeast mixture. So we're going to go ahead and add that, as well as 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So let's go ahead now. You can sort of see it's a little, you probably can't see, well, it doesn't matter, darlings. We're just going to go ahead now and add it in slowly, stirring as you go. Now, if you want to help out your yeast, if you really want your bread to rise quickly, of course, you can go ahead and add just a pinch of sugar. It's recommended, of course, but I sort of ignore that. So you don't have to, obviously. It will make your bread more flat, which is sort of what I'm going for here. I'm not looking for a really high-rising sort of loaf by any means. So we're going to go ahead now and add our 2 tablespoons. I like to do them 1 at a time. So there's 1. The more sort of olive oil you add, the more flaky the quality of the bread will be. So if you prefer something really dense, you want to add more water. But if you want something a little bit lighter, then you add more of the oil. I need to drink something. I start to notice pretty quickly the smell of the herbs. The olive oil really helps to bring that out. So it's just so lovely. And you'll be wanting to get your hands in on this. I might have added a little extra half a tablespoon or so there. You know, olive oil is good for you, darling, so just go crazy, it's fine. So now we've got just about as done as it's going to go with the fork. And then once that's done, we're going to get in here with our hands and work it a little bit more. And that's how you'll know if you need to add any more liquid, because it's hard to get sort of the stuff that's at the very bottom a little more moist, you know. So I'm going to go ahead now and dig in with my hands. And you want to be a little bit rough, you know, you don't want to be too gentle with your mixture. So I'm going to go ahead, pull it in, because, you know, there's some spots that have quite a lot of moisture and some that are completely dry. So you just want to sort of work it around, pressing with the bottom of the palm of your hand. The heel of your palm, I suppose, is the correct term for that. And it does look like we may need a little more liquid, and this is when you can decide if you want to make it more flaky or more dense. And based off of that is whether you want to add a little more water or a little more oil. So I've already added a little extra oil, so I think I'm going to do just a dash of water. Yeah, so just about a tablespoon of water. I'm going to work that in a little bit. So we're starting to get it a little bit better now. Oh yes. You don't want it to be sort of a big hunk of hardness. You do want to make sure that there's some softness to the feeling of the bread dough, that is. Because that's an indication of how well you've worked it, how well aerated it is, and that's going to tell you a lot about sort of the texture you'll come out with in the end. Now, I'll tell you, even if the texture isn't exactly what you want, sometimes it'll still taste good. It'll just be too dense or too sort of greasy, flaky, and more like sort of an American biscuit than a loaf of bread sometimes, if you add too much oil. But I find it's absolutely delicious if you add too much oil, so I really don't worry too much about it, darlings. I honestly don't. So we're just about there now. I think it needs just one dash more of water. And then you start to get to do the fun part, which is to abuse your bread just a little bit before you let it sit to rise. So just one. It's good exercise for darlings, it really is. Okay, there we go. If your bread looks very white, that's a bad sign, because with olive oil you should have a bit of a yellowish tint to your dough. So I've got my dough here. As you can see, it's not exactly white, even though it's a little actually whited out from here. So, okay, so you're going to take this nice ball, you're going to make it nice and tight, and then you want to slam it, and then you want to punch it. And then you're going to cover this and let it rise on its own. So just take a dishcloth, just cover it, and set it aside, and in about an hour's time, your bread will be ready to go into the shaping and then into the oven. So just going to set this aside on the counter here.